Back at the zoo here, September 5th. It's gonna be 10 a.m. Plan is to photograph with the Fuji XH2S and the Fuji XH2. The lens I brought with me today is the Fuji XF100-400mm 5.6 lens. I also brought the 1.4 extender, and I also brought the brand new Vitrox 75mm 1.2 lens. And I do bring my wagon so I can roll it around and not have any weight on my back. That makes for a much more comfortable day and easier to move around and not get beat up. Should be pretty hot today, but right now there's a surprisingly nice breeze. So working my way through the front entrance of the zoo. Sometimes here on the left hand side there's a nice little pond with some birds in it, and can make for some good photographs. There's plenty of lilies also. It could be a nice opportunity here for some nice photos. I'll be challenged with the blades of grass kind of in the way of these ducks, but that'll make it interesting with the camera. See how well the autofocus performs. I'm going to go ahead and bring out the Fuji XH2S with the 1-400mm lens attached. Funny, I'd say this Fuji 100-400mm lens is pretty much the size of a full frame camera 100-400mm lens equivalent. I wouldn't say it's a small lens for APS-C camera, but it is a beautiful lens, and I highly recommend it. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock the lens so that I can go ahead and zoom in and out. My settings right now, everything's on manual. Need to go ahead and adjust that ISO. Probably what I'll have to do is pick a real small autofocus box to try to focus between the blades of grass. But right now the ducks are actually giving me their back, so there's not a great photograph to be taken. Might go ahead and scout out. There's a bunch of lilies here. They can make for some neat photos. So I've gone ahead and switched the camera to single autofocus because I'm trying to photograph some of the lilies that are here right now. And I've also switched the motor drive to one shot. Don't need to take 15 photos of a lily. That's not a moving subject, other than the wind moving it around a little bit. There is that sweet breeze right now. Two lilies that are just getting barely enough light, and I'm able to throw that background a little bit dark. Wind is blowing around these palm fronds from the top, and it brings in the light in and out. So trying to time it where I can get some nice light on the lily for these photos. I did turn on the image stabilizer on the lens. I do have it at 1600th of a second. I set my aperture manually at 5.6, and that should work out fine. Those ducks are still like in the same spot, but giving me their back. I am going to go ahead and walk over to my right hand side here where I should have the sunlight behind me, and maybe I can find some photos over there. Working my way over here to my right hand side. Should put the sun to my back, so should have decent light on any subject that I could find. We'll take a look and see if there's something to photograph. I actually do have an opening to the ducks. Excellent. Let's see. They're a little far, but we'll see how close I can get to them. Still on single autofocus. There's no obstacles in my way to try and make this photo. It's pretty cool. I have a couple of lilies out in front of them. I'm not all that tight on the photograph, but with the lilies it might make for a nice composition. I'm at ISO 800. Taking a few shots, but don't like the position of the face. It's like right at the camera. There you go. There's one a little bit horizontal. Hopefully there's some catch light on the bird because they're black face with dark eyes. So a little catch light would help with those eyes to kind of bring them out in the picture. I have a nice bird here with some interesting light. I'm getting what I love to do, which is to get a nicely exposed bird and throw out that background making it dark, potentially maybe even black. There's a white concrete, like a wall behind it, and I'm trying to see if I can eliminate that. I think I am. Getting down low gets the bird up a little higher and above the concrete. The good thing about it is that the area where I'm aiming the camera towards, that concrete is in shade, so it's not blowing out. Just a few feet to the left of it is actually quite overexposed, but I'm able to pull this off. Let's see if I can actually frame it through some grass here. Nice. Turned horizontal on me, and got a couple of photos, you know, with framing it through some branches of some trees here. So hopefully that's a nice photo. So I just had an opportunity to take some photos of the sloth bear, and what I did is I thought that they were close enough to go ahead and switch out to the Vitrox 75mm 1.2 lens. They were also in a pretty shaded area when I started to take the photos, and I thought there was an opportunity to go ahead and try the Vitrox lens with the Fuji XH2, and was taking a few photos, and then the zookeeper came out of nowhere and brought a big bag of food and threw it out there for him. The bears, you know, were slowly walking towards the food, but then all of a sudden one of them took off running. I did manage to get some photos off. I did have it on continuous autofocus, and the motor drive turned on to high speed, but I was shooting on manual exposure, and they got to a point where I was blowing them out, overexposing them. But hopefully I got a couple of those photos to come out nice. I then went ahead and switched out to the Fuji XH2S and the 1-400mm lens. All of a sudden the two bears started fighting. It's not often that you get them actually running and interacting with each other that way, and especially fighting. I got it with the mouth open and everything. I definitely was wide open at 5.6 aperture. Maybe the 5.6 helped me out, but I was zoomed out quite a bit, so the depth of field is going to be a bit shallow. I do believe that the shutter speed was fast enough to freeze the action. So I had an opportunity to photograph the Gazelle. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. It's always one of my favorite animals to photograph here, and not because of anything too special other than the fact that the exhibit lends itself pretty good for looking like you're out in nature. They were out far back, quite a distance, so most of the photographs were taken at 600mm. It looked like one of the gazelles wanted to get friendly with the other, and was hanging around real close to the other. I've also been keeping an eye out for plants that are lit in an interesting way, and I think I've made a couple of nice photographs of a couple of plants where they're lit with some nice light, and I'm typically trying to get that background to go black, and I've shot those with the 1-400mm lens, a lot of times extended out all the way. Talking a little bit about my photography thus far. I did just have an opportunity to photograph the Asian elephant, and it was a great opportunity because I was able to frame it in a way where the elephant was actually sucking up some water from actually a giant faucet that was coming out into this little water pond that they have. And that's not going to be the picture because I don't want the concrete water pond, which is a shame that it looks like concrete because it would have made for some pretty cool pictures as it was trying to suck up the water there. But what I was waiting for was when it would actually bring up the trunk and splash the water on its person. So I had the camera set to eye autofocus tracking for animals, and I had the motor drive set to 15 frames per second, and that gave me an opportunity to get quite a few frames as he splashed the water upon himself and get it going all over the place. So hopefully that makes for some nice photographs using the Fuji XH2S and the XF100-400mm lens. I was zoomed out all the way. And I'll probably have to do some cropping just to make sure I get the composition that I would like for that photograph. Getting a real nice opportunity here to photograph the African painted dog. If you get here I guess between 11 and noon, it looks like they just gave him some food, and it always gives me opportunity to get some nice photographs. This area is difficult because of the shadows and the bright spots in the exhibit. The eye autofocus does a pretty good job for the most part, the box getting on the animal. I did have I do have some times where it struggles. Specifically, it was in the African painted dog was in a shadowed area, and it's a bit bright behind him, and I can see where it would struggle because the face of the dog is very dark and it's got dark eyes, and it's in a shadow area with overexposed background. So, you know, I think most cameras actually struggle with that. So as I was sitting here, I noticed on the trees a great opportunity. It was not one, but several woodpeckers flying back and forth and landing on different tree limbs. And I started to take photos from my position here pretty much, just in case I scared them away. And I gradually started to walk closer and closer to them. And there's at least a handful of woodpeckers here going back and forth between trees and coming back to this one tree where I originally spotted it quite often. So it made for a good opportunity to do some bird photography here in September in Florida. And these birds are the medium-sized woodpecker, and didn't get them pecking, but I did get a couple of photos with some kind of red seeds that they were taking from the tree. I don't know if that's something that they're going to eat or they're just playing around with. But most of the time we're just flying around and landing on different tree limbs. And I gave me an opportunity to shoot with the 1-400 extended out all the way. I was able to quickly hit the Q button and change from animal eye autofocus tracking to bird eye autofocus tracking. The camera did struggle focusing quite a bit, but it was a challenging situation. They didn't stay still for very long. They were going in and out of bright areas and dark areas. Mainly dark areas, to be honest with you. I did have the system set to eye autofocus tracking, and you know, it was a little bit hit and miss, but I'm hoping that I have a few photos that I can use. I don't know that any other system performs that much better because I'm just using the Fuji system. But certainly the Fuji system has come a long way. Keep in mind also that I am using a lens, the 100-400mm lens with an aperture of 5.6. So the amount of light coming in to help the system focus is dimmer than if you were using a 2.8 lens. When I was walking out, I actually had an opportunity where I spotted red cardinal. I don't think I got great photos, but I was able to trip the shutter and give it a shot. Hopefully I did come up with something that'll surprise me. We'll see how the pictures turn out when I get back and start going through them. I hope to put something together for you guys to see. And it's been fun sharing some thoughts and opinion regarding the Fuji XH2S and just a few shots with the Fuji X2 and the Vitrox lens. Hopefully I got a couple of nice photos of the bear. When I took those photos, that's all I was able to take. Didn't see many other opportunities for me to take a picture with that outfit. But we give it a crack. You got to practice with this equipment because there's just so many buttons and so many features and options on these cameras that if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's very important to shoot as much as you possibly can. Get out there and shoot. You know, it's funny because some people have a negative thought about photographing at the zoo or whatever, but for me, it's just a place that gives me opportunities to take photos. And it's a challenge. It challenges me because my goal is always to make photos that look like I'm out in the wilderness. And, you know, it's a good opportunity to test your gear, to practice your craft and get better. So go to zoos, go anywhere that you are taking photos. And I'm gonna wrap up my day here at the zoo. I hope you guys get something out of this. Please like and subscribe and provide some feedback. I'd like to have some thoughts from you guys and any suggestions that you may have, and hopefully I've been helpful with some of mine. And hope you enjoyed. And again, please like and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Have an awesome day.